Well, first off, it was very relaxing and cool to think that you could escape just for that moment, just to go somewhere really neat and not think, not hopefully not stress, and just escape for a moment.
We're really good at telling our patients and their family members to take care of themselves and provide self-care, but when it comes to us managing our own self-care, we're not very good at it. And so what are the few things that you can do each day to kind of take the edge off of the stressful days that you're having? So virtual reality for us is something new. It is something that we're going to encourage our care providers to become involved in and step away from the bedside for 20 minutes to breathe and walk through this tranquil, beautiful setting, and how can they help themselves get through this next 12-hour day or whatever it is.
We're going through a pandemic. We're part of a hospital for healthcare. It affects everyone. Our numbers go up, right? And that raises stress levels of what does that mean? How long are we in this? And when and if, when will it come to an end?
Hi, everyone. I'm Sarah Hill, CEO of Helium.
I'm Jeff Tarrant, the Chief Science Officer.
And we are glad to have you here today, talking a little bit about our research and how mind-powered VR-ceuticals are impacting healthcare workers. So this study was done by Boone Health in Missouri with support from GSK Pharmaceuticals. And we're here to talk with you a little bit more about it today. You can read about all of our science and our 5 peer-reviewed journal articles at tryhelium.com/science. And in short, what Helium does is allows you to learn to self-regulate. This is the Stress Olympics right now, specifically in the wake of what's going on with Russia. And not everyone is trained for it. And so that's what we're doing with these experiences, trying to allow people to see their stress, their focus, and their calm so that they can learn to control it. So these are whales that are floating through the Aurora Borealis, because after all, where else would whales swim but in the Aurora Borealis? And that's your EEG brain patterns associated with your feelings of focus, calm, and your mind is actually powering this. So if your feelings of focus, calm are above a certain threshold, that experience will advance. And if it dips below that threshold, then the background will turn red. You also get a score for the percentage of time that you spend above the threshold. So these are the experiences that are powered by your brain patterns inside virtual reality. And some of the experiences that are being used right now with hospitals around the world with frontline healthcare workers for compassion fatigue. And that's what Jeff is going to talk about right now. With a study that was recently published in Frontiers in VR Medicine.
Yeah, thanks, Sarah. It's great to be sharing this information with you all. So this is the most recent study that we've published looking at the impact of virtual and augmented reality, specifically virtual and augmented reality meditations as a way to impact stress and anxiety. And in this particular study, we were looking at the use case for this within a hospital setting with frontline workers. And so what we were doing here was comparing a virtual reality meditation. It was a guided body scan meditation where they were sitting on a beach going through this meditation while they were monitoring their brainwave activity, compared to the same guided meditation, but in audio only form. So we really wanted to kind of head to head look at this and see, does virtual reality plus neurofeedback provide any additional benefit? So a quick look at our participants. We had 100 subjects. And so we had 50 in each group. We basically took turns assigning them into the experimental condition or the control condition. You can see that there was a much larger percentage of female identified participants than male. So something that we can improve on in the future, trying to extend our demographics. Most of the participants did not have much of a meditation history. So this was sort of a novel experience. I think the most important element to look at, both with the meditation habits and education level, is that comparing the two groups, they were nearly equivalent on all of the different metrics. So again, suggests that the two groups were essentially equal. And in fact, when we did run statistics on that, there was no significant difference between groups. So the technology, we've kind of explained it, but using a virtual reality beach scene, you can see that up at the top, and then using the BrainLink Lite EEG headband to monitor brainwave activity and the frontal lobes associated with a state of focused calm. And this was integrated with the Helium software so that people were able to monitor and then modulate their brainwave activity during the experience. So what we used as an outcome measure in this study was the Brunel Mood Scale. So we like this a lot because it's great for measuring states, how somebody's feeling in the moment, and then any changes that might occur. And so all the subjects completed this scale before either the control condition or the experimental condition, and then immediately after. And by the way, I should note that the meditations were about 5 minutes long. So these were brief meditations, and it was done purposely that way as to look and see, could this be useful during somebody's workday, just taking a short break, and can we help shift moods? So the results, the Brunel Mood Scale breaks out into a variety of different subscales. So we looked at each of those. And this first slide is really looking at kind of more of the negative moods, right? So anger, tension, and depression. And you can see the blue line indicates the pre and the post average scores for the virtual reality plus neurofeedback group. The yellow line is the audio only group. And so what you can see on this slide is that both groups decreased significantly pre to post, and there was no significant difference between groups. So you can see the p-values for each one of these, and really that's combining both groups together and looking at changes over time. So this was interesting to us because while of course we would like to see the virtual reality outperform audio only, this is a consistent finding that we've seen in other studies, that it seems to be the case that a brief relaxation experience has the biggest effect on negative mood states across the board, kind of regardless of what you're doing. So this wasn't a big surprise. Now, when we look at some of the other scales, things start to get more interesting. And by interesting, I mean there's a difference between groups. And so for all of the rest of the comparisons that we did, there was a group by time statistically significant difference, showing that, you know, these two, the interaction between groups and time was statistically significant. And so you can see with the vigor scale that the VR group decreased while the audio only group increased. And that's an interesting one that I want to hang on for just a second, because that might on the surface seem like a negative finding for the VR group, because wouldn't you want vigor to increase? However, when you look at the specific items that make up that scale, and you look at it in the context of changes on the other scales, it becomes pretty clear that the reason that the VR group was showing a decrease is because they were becoming more relaxed. And so this is actually a positive finding, that the vigor score was decreasing. You also see the VR group decreasing in confusion as well as fatigue. So again, these all seem to be findings in favor of the VR group in relation to the audio only group. And then the last slide, and for me, I think the one that's the most fun, is looking at the scales that definitely have a clear positive mood associated with them. So happiness and calmness. And you can see that the audio groups basically had no change. However, whatever their level of happiness at the beginning was basically the same at the end. However, you see a very sharp increase in both of those scales for the virtual reality group. So this seems important because what we're seeing is that there's a generic relaxation effect of basically taking a break. If you take a break doing anything, it tends to reduce feelings of anger and tension and depression. That's sort of like everybody gets that. But then there seems to be these additional benefits that you get by using virtual reality plus neurofeedback. So on all of the other scales, so vigor, fatigue, confusion, happiness, calmness. So for us, this was a really important finding because what it suggests is that there is a very clear way to use this technology in high stress situations, such as a hospital setting for healthcare workers.
And if you'd like more information about that particular study, you can read about it in Frontiers in VR Medicine. We're involved in about a dozen different trials around the world right now. And this is one of them. You can experience this stress animal on our platform right now. It's a jaguar that you can actually control with your brain patterns. So as you increase your feelings of focus, calm, that jaguar will actually change from a pounce position. It will sit down right next to you and start to lick its paw. And you can actually play ball with your stress animal as a tool, a drugless, non-harmful coping mechanism for this, what we call the Stress Olympics. In addition to the studies that Dr. Tarrant mentioned, you can read about all of the studies with helium on our website at tryhelium.com/science. If you have any additional questions for us or feedback about helium, that's on Oculus, iOS, Android, Pico, the Steam and Vive Flow as well. You can email us at hello@tryhelium.com. So appreciate the opportunity to share with all of you. Don't forget, this is the Stress Olympics, and not everyone has trained for it. So we welcome your feedback on our products and telling other frontline healthcare workers that their thoughts do have power to control things, not only in the virtual world, but the real world as well.